Bun venit la o nouă ediție a emisiunii Ziua se apropie. În minutele care urmează vă prezentăm un interviu realizat de colegii noștri de la Christians for Israel cu Patrick Desbois, preot romano-catolic francez și expert în Holocaust. În anii de cercetare, preotul și expertul în Holocaust, Patrick Desbois, a descoperit numeroase gropi comune evreiești în Europa de Est și a examinat motivul pentru care oamenii obișnuiți din acea vreme au participat la distrugerea în masă a evreilor din timpul celui de-al doilea război mondial. Să-l urmărim!
Since October 7th, anti-Semitism has increased alarmingly worldwide. We mentioned this on the eve of International Holocaust Remembrance Day. Is it possible to make links to the time before the Second World War, or is that going too far? At my table is priest and Holocaust expert Patrick Desbois, who, through years of research, discovered the Jewish mass graves in Eastern Europe and also discovered why ordinary people helped in the mass destruction. Mr. Desbois, welcome.
Thank you.
It's good to have you here.
Thank you. Bless the Lord to be here with you.
You are a priest in the Roman Catholic Church and you grew up in France. So how did your interest in the Holocaust start?
My grandpa has been deported in Ukraine in July 42, but we knew nothing. He never accepted to speak. And one day I was in Poland and I made a mistake. I passed near a village. I asked where I am, and it was near the camp of my grandpa. Mm-hmm. So it began like that. It was a family investigation. And after years and years and years with my organization called Yarad in Num, it means together in Hebrew and Latin. And we have now discovered the mass grave of nearly 2 million Jews.
But it started with your grandfather.
It started with grandpa, yeah.
Yeah. What happened to him?
He has been deported. He came back to France. He arrived to Strasbourg. He bought his train ticket, and the lady selling the ticket phoned to Gestapo. So he has been deported from Strasbourg to Ukraine.
And then he spent his time
he was prisoner until the end of the war. He was partially in Ukraine and after back in Germany.
Right. And did he ever talk about the camps?
Never. He only said in our place we had no food, no drink, but outside was worse. And I think when I went back to the village, I realized that in that village they shot 18,000 Jews. So I realized that the others, it was the Jews.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. When you told us, you discovered about your grandfather, then you started to discover and research in Ukraine and other countries in the Eastern Europe.
Yeah, I'm not alone. We are 20 full-time in Yarad.
But you started alone, right?
No. Mm-hmm. I started alone, but in Poland.
Yeah.
But in Ukraine, it was already a small team. You cannot work alone because you need a cameraman, you need investigator, you need mediator, you need drivers. Mm-hmm. And so we began by Ukraine, and after we made all the post-Soviet republic, we went in Russia, in Belarus, after also in Romania, in Poland, Moldavia, Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania. It means all the Soviet bloc.
Right. But to give a little bit of background, before you started your investigation about the Holocaust in Eastern Europe, there was actually not so much known about this chapter of history.
It was known in one way because some Jews, very important, published a black book after war. Mm-hmm. But it's sure that when you go in the street, if you ask, what do you think Holocaust, they will say Auschwitz. People don't remember the mass graves. No. I think it's frightening for humanity because they realize that, in fact, we build a life on the dead of other people.
Right. But people in Ukraine and the other countries where you went, they were not willing to talk about what happened during World War II.
Until the year 2000, nobody wanted to speak because they were afraid. But after, the opposite. One man, he told me, I have 1,500 Jews in my garden and nobody came back. You're the first one.
No, 1,500 Jews buried in his garden.
Yeah.
When was the first time that people started to talk?
It was at the end. It was just before the year 2000. They began to be free of the Soviet memory.
Right.
But it was difficult.
Yeah. What did they say when they started sharing?
When they spoke, they say they were present because we are looking for people who were present at the killing. Yeah. So they were here to watch. So they know all the details, how the Germans arrived with cart and truck and brought the Jews, forced the Jews to dig the mass grave, and after shot them. And the Nazi wanted to do only shootings, and the rest, all the dirty job, they forced the population to do it. So it's the local people who were digging the mass grave, fulfilling the mass grave, bringing ashes on the blood, etc., etc.
So people were really involved in the extermination of the Jews?
It's not the question. They were Soviets, so in Soviet Union, when you were asked for a job, you couldn't say no. So Hitler used that to get people. He didn't pay them. They were forced to do it.
Right.
There were also people participating to the genocide in every country where I went, even Russia. But majority of the people who speak to us are the poorest people. They were present from morning to night at the shooting, and nobody asked them anything. We were the first organization to interview non-Jews.
And what kind of stories? What story sticks the most to you of what they?
So many, we have filmed 8,700 people. So it was a village. I remember it was in Crimea, in Simferopol. It was a family. They realized their young daughter has been taken. She was a baby. She was like 7 years old. So they sent people. They ran to the place of the shooting to ask the German not to shoot the baby, and they could not. But they heard the last discussion of this small girl. This small girl didn't know she was to be shot. It was very cold, so she said, "I'm cold, and but I give you my shoes if you want," and etc. And they shot the girl.
Yeah, that's how is it possible? Because you've spent many years, over 20 years, researching all these horrible stories. How is it possible to cope with this?
I don't know. First, I got that from my family heritage. Secondly, the prayer. Without prayer, I could not stand, because you need to stay at God's level, I would say, as far as you can. But also to be supported by psychoanalysts. Right. Because I interview...
You need the support to do that.
Yeah. Because it attacks you, it damages you.
Yeah. Because you also wrote a few books. One of the most known is Holocaust by Bullets, written by you about the Holocaust in Eastern Europe. What impact did your research have of you and your organization?
First, my team is very young, and we began to be considered as specialists of the shootings. So suddenly we have been asked to do the same in Guatemala. Today will be a big ceremony in Guatemala because we opened the Museum of Holocaust. And we did the same in Iraq about the victim of ISIS. And now we are doing in Ukraine with the victim of the Russian. So I would say my team is very dedicated to that. The leaders of the organization are all Christian from any church. We are from different churches. And I would say we do it because it has to be done. We are very simple people. We don't take time to analyze ourselves, etc. We really do it. I always say to Americans, it's like when it was 9/11 and the towers were falling down and the fireman was here. And if somebody asks the fireman, "Why do you do that?" He would tell you, "I have no time to answer. It's burning."
Yeah.
It's burning, it's a burning, it's a burning memory. It was 2 million Jews buried nearly, by shooting, also buried alive, and nobody cared. And the corpses are still underground. And in the Jewish tradition, they are considered as tzaddikim. So for me also, it was a religious dimension of them. I realized when I found the new mass grave, I always say to the dead, "Finally, we found you."
It also is like a religious duty for you? Yeah. So why is it important to find these people?
Because, in the Bible, Cain is killing Abel. The first brothers are killing each other. And God asked to Cain, "Where is your brother?" And so where? He doesn't ask him, "Why did you do that?" And also, but where? And it's a key question I had. Where are they? Where are the Jews from Eastern Europe? Where are the Gypsy from Eastern Europe? Where are they? And so for me, it was, I would say, an obligation to localize where were. So also because their mass grave must be protected, a Kaddish must be said. Otherwise,
just the prayer, the Jewish prayer.
Yeah, so because many families write to us now, families from Israel, families from America, from Australia, in which mass grave is my grandma, in which mass grave is a rabbi, in which mass grave is my father. And so we reconnect them and we encourage them to go back on the ground, to say Kaddish, also to build a small memorial.
Exactly. Yeah. You just mentioned that you and your team worked in Iraq, in Guatemala also. Talking about Iraq, what did you investigate there? In
Iraq, we began in 2015. It was just after the attack of Abu Bakr Baghdadi and ISIS. And what we did is that two things. We investigated about all these girls and boys who have been sold as slaves. We do it until now. And we realized we could not only interview, we opened centers to heal the woman. A woman who is going out of Iraq now, she has been raped between 25 times to 35 times, sold every time. She had forced babies.
Because you're talking about ISIS, the atrocities.
It's a victim of ISIS, the Yazidi.
ISIS are committing against the
Yazidi.
Yazidi,
And the Yazidi are nearly Zoroastrian. They never accepted to convert. So they have been considered like non-believers.
Right.
It's why everything was possible.
How do you see the parallels between what you investigate in Eastern Europe and in Iraq?
It's the same methodology. Among people who did a genocide, Hitler is the only well-known. If you see books in country, you will find no book about Stalin, no book about Pol Pot, only Hitler. It's a brand. And I think the shootings, it was unfortunately a big success to shoot 2 million Jews one by one, 2 million bullets, how many shooters. And so I think the mass shootings today are the same model. People attack a village, surrender the village, and everybody is dead in the evening. It's exactly the same methodology.
Yeah. Because you also teach as a professor in the United States. What is the topic that you teach there?
We teach to students in Jewish civilization studies, but also in security studies. And we teach them about a forensic approach of the crimes committed by the Nazis and a forensic approach of the crimes committed by ISIS. So it's one of our classes that I am teaching actually.
Right, but you say forensics, that reminds us of police forensics. And is this also the way that you do your research?
Yeah, it's the way we do it. We really investigate because, tomorrow the survivors will be dead. 3,000 nearly mass graves with nothing. You see nothing. Sometimes you put a stone, but you see nothing. There is no railway, no train, no gas chamber. So the deniers will say it never existed. Yeah. It's a fabric to make money to build Israel.
So you need to find proof.
Yeah. So for me, we had to find the evidence place by place so that tomorrow people can study how many crimes has been committed in the name of Hitler in these cities. Because when you have no memory, you have deniers.
If we go to today is also an important day because it's the 26th of January and the International Court of Justice is going to give a first ruling about genocide trial against Israel. You talk about genocide by Hitler, you talk about genocide by ISIS against the Yazidi. What do you think about the allegation that is made here against Israel?
For me, what is very surprising, I know South Africa and I like this country, but it's very surprising because they wanted to invite Mr. Putin. Recently, Putin has been accused of genocide by international law, and they were not afraid. They did the maximum to make him come, and they wanted even to retract themselves from international court. And same thing, they received the ex-president of Sudan, and he is accused of genocide. So for me, it's strange that the president of South Africa is not worried about Sudan, is not worried about Ukraine today,
but he is
and he's worried
about
only about the Palestinian today.
Yeah.
So it seems to me very weird. I know very well the population of South Africa. I don't think actually the problem of the poorest people who are so numerous in South Africa have the problem first to resolve with Palestinians.
But do you think it's a legitimate accusation against Israel?
No, it's, South Africa, they don't recognize the International Court for Putin. So why suddenly they are interested in international affairs? I think the president tried to save his own statue because the elections are approaching.
Right.
And secondly, I don't know who are the allies of South Africa to engage that. I'm sure he's not alone, the president. Somebody is helping.
What about what Hamas did on the 7th of October? Do you think that has some genocidal aspects in it?
It's first a crime against humanity. I don't run too quickly to name genocide.
Right.
But it's sure that, for example, the president of South Africa doesn't ask to judge also Hamas. So it seems illegitimate what Hamas did. For me, Hamas is a terrorist organization like ISIS, like Al-Qaeda. And so as they declared the Jews are not believers, everything was possible and the worst. And they did the worst, pretending they do it in the name of God. That's a real problem for me. It was not a secular crime. It was a religious crime, and proud to do it with GoPro to show it to everybody.
Exactly, yeah. Since October 7th, we see also in Europe that anti-Semitism is rising. What do you think about that? Also, France is a
anti-Semitism is a sin. It's a sin against God and humanity. So a sin, unfortunately, never dies. It's the same thing. I work in many countries where, by example, the president in Syria, they say he killed 500,000 people. Why nobody is against the Syrian? Why nobody makes strikes against Bashar, etc.? So I think, strangely, if it was not the Jews who live in Israel, nobody will care for the Palestinians.
No. If we look, because you have studied a lot about the Holocaust, you have seen evil in the eye in Eastern Europe, in Iraq, and different other places. What is important to keep in mind? Most of people who are watching here are Christians. What is the most important to keep in mind to fight evil?
For me, it's to remember everybody is fragile, and everybody can be a victim. Everybody can be a killer. You know, like I knock at the door in Poland or in Ukraine, but also in Iraq. I don't know if they save people or kill people. With the same smile, the same welcome. I imagined before that the killers were monsters, but no, they are normal people.
Yeah.
So I think we have to educate to be careful. Don't think that evil is only in the mind of others. It's also a capacity that you have.
So how can you weaponize yourself against this?
It's to know when you go in a country who hates, who make propaganda against part of the population, you must be careful. You must be careful because it seems the temptation is great to jump in and begin to commit crimes against your neighbors.
Right. We agreed that you would share something from the Bible. Which portion did you choose?
Yeah, it's the chapter 4 of Genesis. It's the text of Cain. You know, I was always wondering why they put this text at the beginning of the Bible. And I think if it was not at the beginning, nobody would read it. Because one brother is killing the other brother, the first time they are brothers, so it means the same thing. Assassination is part of humanity. And secondly, God is worried about where is the corpse. So it's strange for me. It's why it's this question of God is one of the first questions he raises, and it's also my question. Okay. Many times I heard this question, where are the corpses of the Jews? Yeah. So that's the text of chapter 4. And Cain talked with Abel, his brother, and it came to pass, when they were in the field, that Cain rose up against Abel, his brother, and slew him. And the Lord said unto Cain, where is Abel, thy brother? And he said, I don't know. Am I thy brother's keeper? And he said, what have you done? The voice of your brother's blood crieth until me from the ground. And you know, in the Jewish commentary from Rashi, they say it was not the blood were crying, but the bloods, meaning all the people would be killed after. And as I say, we cannot build nice country. We cannot build nice religion, nice democracy on mass grave of other people. Because otherwise these people will yell to God until the end, and we cannot accept that the silence of these millions of Jews who have been assassinated for nothing except to be Jews will be forgotten. And this commemoration of Holocaust, for me, it's to pay tribute to this million of people, say, we don't forget you. You were alive, you had a project, you were young, you went to school, you were married, you have children, you were a grandpa, grandma. Suddenly you are only bones in a mass grave in the middle of nowhere. We will not be able to build Europe in a good way if we forget these 2 million people, and if we tell them keep silent in front of God, they will not keep silence.
We have to recognize it. Yeah. Will you pray with us?
Yeah. Some Holy Father, I pray you so that today the celebration of Holocaust will remember people their responsibility. I pray to you also for all the victims that have been assassinated in these countries and forgotten by the planet. And I want to thank you to have called us to meet each other in this very amazing center for Israel. I bless you in the name of Christ, Jesus. Amen.
Amen. Thank you very much for coming to our studio, Patrick Desbois. Today, a temporary judgment will be issued by the International Court of Justice on a genocide accusation against Israel. We recorded this broadcast in the morning of January 26, so unfortunately the verdict is not yet known. Thank you for watching and goodbye.
Emisiunea Ziua se apropie, se încheie aici. Vă mulțumim pentru atenție și vă dăm o nouă întâlnire săptămâna viitoare la aceeași oră. Sunt Codruța Burghelea, vă spun la revedere și Dumnezeu să vă binecuvânteze!